may I welcome Lily Koloff to the stage? Thank you. And Lily's going to present mitigating sensors through building systems of support for children and young adults impacted with ALS. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, can you guys hear me? I'm trying to adjust a little bit. Hello, hello? Good, good? Perfect. I am so excited to be in the same space as every one of you guys and just be like-minded in the same space. And after my presentation, if you guys have some ideas or if something provoked you, please let me know. This is why we're all here. We're here to brainstorm. My name is Lily Cola, flower soda if you forget, truly, as you can see, literally flower cola or flower soda. But I'm here to, again, talk about mitigating stressors when it comes to building systems of support for youth and young adults. Oh, there we go. This would be helpful. So the outline of this presentation, I'm first going to talk about the day-to-day external and internal stressors that a young person may face. And then I'll go into some tools and say some examples on how to really build a safe space or just some tools to help out with young folks. And then at the end, I'll do an overview of the importance of brainstorming and kind of just coming together. Oh, I can see down here too, cool. So I wanted to break it down for some external and internal stressors. And if you're a social work, you'll kind of know like the micro, meso, macro. So that's how I'm gonna break it down. So when it comes to the micro, I'm talking about the intrapersonal and the interpersonal. Intrapersonal is self-regulation, self-awareness, identity. Interpersonal is kind of just like that inner circle. So like your family member, parent or guardian, friends, siblings, stuff like that. And then going down to the meso, which is like the communities and the groups. So for example, religious studies or sports, student councils, things like that. And then going out to the bigger circle, which is the macro. And that's, of course, as you already know, the bigger picture. So that is the systematic issues. So that's more of politics, law and legislation, and healthcare systems like that. In 2018, the American Psychological Association conducted a study called Stress America. There were over 3,458 respondents, and it was to get the percentage of individuals who are stressed, such as gun violence, sexual harassment, and things like that. And of those participants, 300 were between the ages of 15 to 17, and 792 are between the ages of 18 to 21. Now that right there is the group that I'm gonna be talking about, the Gen Z population. I'm a millennial, and so then after me is the Gen Z. And so I'm gonna be talking about them, and just from that survey, when it was completed, again, just from the Gen Z, 75% were stressed about the possibility of a mass shooting or a school shooting. 62% had a rise in suicide rate. 58% was stressed about the climate change. 57% was stressed about the separation and deportation of family members who were from migrant or immigrant families. And 53% would stress about a widespread when it came to sexual harassment or sexual assault. Now that is just the external stressors. And that's kind of a lot. In my opinion, that's a big number. There we go. And then when it comes down to the internal stressors too, this is more about, some of them are hitting past 30%. And that is going from the range of, they're getting bullied. Or am I able to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, or a snack at home? Or, are they coping through using drug or alcohol use? And also, I do want to make this to where they are wondering their sexual orientation and sexual identity as well. Now let's stop and think. That's a lot. That's a lot of information. In my opinion, when I was looking at this survey, I was getting overwhelmed. So I can only imagine that's a lot on their shoulders. That's a lot going on in their world. But I'm not done, because then they find out that a loved one has ALS and that they have to be a caregiver now. So as they're trying to process and do their life, they have to also add more onto it, but they want to do it because they want to do that for their loved one. That's a lot. I mean, just imagine that. And this was a study that was done in 2018. It's 2022. A lot of stuff's happened since then, as we all know. We all went through it too. It's a lot of things. So as I said, I wanted to have your imagination. Now we're going to transport, imagine us transporting. We're going to go to North Carolina, my home state, and I want to talk about a awesome organization that does everything that they can to help out the ALS community. Joe Martin was diagnosed with ALS in October 1994. He didn't let ALS consume him, rather he took over ALS. He lived life to the fullest by traveling, advocating for PALS, and so much more. He understood most PALS did not have the quality of care he received, and Joe envisioned an organization that would help PALS live actively with ALS. Even though Mr. Martin had passed away July 2006, his caregivers took forth his vision, and the Joe Martin Foundation was founded May 14, 2007. It is exceptional. I'm so excited to say this. It's so exciting to say that the North Carolina chapter is able to collaborate with this great foundation. I know when I'm at clinic, I always refer individuals and families over to the Joe Martin Foundation in the Charlotte area, because they're going to receive much more support. So as I was talking to the president of the Joe Martin Foundation, Neil Cottrell, he shared that it all starts with families. And so over here, and I truly, if you can find me in this, oh, where's the laser pointer? If you can find me in this, I'll give you a high five or something, I don't know. But I'm somewhere in there. But it starts with families, and it started with his mother. She had voiced that the foundation should start a camp. And Neil and his crew heard that, and 8 years later, they're still doing Joe's Camp. And so, to do that, it starts with planning. And so Neil reached out to the Hope Love Company, since at that time, they were mostly doing like weekend camps up north in America, but Neil desired to have something down in the south. And so this is what Joe Camp kind of just started to be. It's a weekend to where kids can simply be kids again. It's a chance for kids to be able to talk about ALS. And they do a whole bunch of activities such as, waterfront activities or arts and crafts, sitting by a campfire, but they're in a space to where they're able to be around other kids. During COVID, they had done Joe's Camp virtually, and this past summer, it was done after 2 years. And so that's really exciting. And I think the best thing to say, too, is that it's not just folks that are in North Carolina, but there was kids from other states that joined into it too. I think there was like Georgia and Mississippi and Tennessee, I think. But that's the big thing that is what Joe Martin and just Neil were wanting to do, is to bring this all together. Oh, also, and this is what I also like, is that when they're not doing Joe's Camp, because it's over this summer, they still have like that support. They call it cabin time. And so they have a Zoom meeting, like not a meeting, these are kids, but it's like a Zoom to where kids are able to talk about just things that are going on at school, but then also just be able to talk to other kids still. And it's once a month. So one thing that I really wanted to share, so I had mentioned arts and crafts, and I wanted to show an activity that we did at Joe's Camp, and I had Joanna Nunez, who you guys will hear the chance later on today, hear her talk. She assisted me with this activity. And so some of you may have heard this, may be doing this, or you're kind of like, what is this? What's in the box? But it is simply a coping box. And so I decided to introduce this activity between to the campers. They're between the ages of 8 and 17, and each of them were involved. I think like they were able to do their creativity. They were able to converse with one another too. And that's exactly what we were wanting it to be. And so this was first a group discussion, and then it fell into an activity. The activity was creating the box, putting your name on the box, and all that stuff. And one thing that I did want to draw a hard line of is the difference between a box of toys and a coping box. I think someone was saying yesterday, education and how you say things can really play a part of it. And so in my verbiage, a box of toys is something that you play with, something that you want to play with. When I was little, I did Polly Pockets. I wanted to play with my friends with Polly Pockets. But a coping box is more of having like fidgets and things that can help de-stress and help kind of bring you back to the present moment. And so that's exactly what we did. I first asked the question to the kids, do you know what coping is, or what do you do for coping? Most of the kids, that was another good thing, having older kids be there to kind of give examples of what they were doing, and eventually more kids started to join in. And they would share that they distress by playing basketball, by talking to their friends, drawing, being out in nature, and so much more. And that was so awesome to see and just be part of, just having the kids be able to have those conversations. And one thing that I really liked while we were doing this, as you can see, like in that picture, that we like folded the box on the tables. There's like stickers, color pencils, magazines that they can cut out and all that. And when they were done decorating, they would go table to table and they say, hey, what'd you put on your box? On that box, again, is things that help them distress. So they're showing off their box. They're like, oh yeah, I do this. Oh, I do that too. And so it was great. And so as I was seeing this though, and like internally, I'm like, oh yay, Kaloo. But outside, I'm like still trying to be like teaching mode. And I see this 8-year-old, and she's so funny. But I go up to her, and she just looked sad. And I go up to her and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And she looks up with me with like these blue eyes. And she's like, Miss Lily, I don't do coping. And I was like, okay. And so I sat down right next to her and I started to break it down further. Because again, education is key. Say it in a way to where it just make sense. Simple as that. So I broke it down further for her. And it turns out when she's happy, she dances in her room. And when she's mad, she pets her cat. And when she's sad, she talks to her mom. And, just simply having that patience to just break it down further can be so huge. And I found out that, I learned about this coping box for when I used to work at a trauma-informed agency, and I worked with kids between the ages of 8 and 10. And I don't know if you have kids, you probably do, maybe if you know, I feel that's the age range to where kids are learning how to self-regulate, learning, how to take time for themselves. And so that was the age range where I mostly assisted with. And the kids that I would assist with would get pretty angry very quick to anger. Uno was a quick no, because people would get upset. Candyland was a no, because it was one of those things where it's like, Timmy, you skipped 3 yellow spots, you gotta go back to 2. Candyland board was across the room, so that was a no. And so, but when I found out that using this type of technique, it reminded kids to, when they were upset, frustrated, feeling some type of way, they were able to take that time to be present, take that time to be calm first, rather than creating a thunderdome in the classroom. And so this one kid in particular that I think of, and I'll never forget, he was a really sweet guy. When he was frustrated, he would either take time by himself, and he would say that too. But of course, that took practice and time. And so he'd either take time by himself, or he would get his coping box. And in that coping box were things that would help him regulate and kind of just be in the moment again, help him distress. And when I saw that coping box, I would kind of go by, and to me, that was like, okay, he wants to talk about it, he wants to process what's going through. And the 2 things that he would always bring out would be a Beanie Baby and bubbles. But that's what made him process and think through things. He would pet this Beanie Baby and was able to process. And so he petted this Beanie Baby because it reminded him of petting his dog at his dad's house, who he doesn't see his dad anymore. And he blew bubbles because it helped him with that deep breathing. It helped him lower that heart rate too. And so, I'm hurrying, uh-oh. And so my main thing is kids and young adults play a vital role of continuing a legacy or starting a new one. At this camp, I had grown-up conversations. I had to help ease their mind. I had to help ease a camper's mind because she was stressed about finding a scholarship for college. She wasn't really close to graduating high school. And so things like that, it really puts in perspective, just that reminder of kids to be kids. And so I guess my questions to you guys is, globally, how can we find the tools or revamp or, really strengthen just to have a safe space for kids to be kids, just be able to talk about it? Because each and every one of us knows how it feels, and sometimes the biggest battle is the thing that's laying behind our eyes, but in between our ears. That's the hardest thing. And so I'll cut it short, but I do appreciate you guys. And if anything provoked you or thoughts and ideas, please let me know. I'd love to brainstorm with you, but let me skip that. That was strengthening, coming together. And then connecting resources, that's the resources that I use. That's my information. I did want to put Joe Martin into there as well. If you guys are curious, his phone number and email, just to pick his brain too, even though he's not here. But I mean, again, that's why we're here, is brainstorming. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you.
Lily, thank you so much for your presentation. That was really insightful. And I love the fact that you're encouraging children to be children, and I think that's just fantastic. Do we have any questions for Lily? There's over here.
Yes, I was excited if you raised your hand. Yes. Lay it on me.
I was just thinking, in that camp, are you thinking on teaching kids how to explain other people or other children what is ALS?
Because that was the thing too, is that it was a space to where, because they're learning about ALS, but then also like they can't really talk about ALS to their friends at school because they're kind of like, what are you talking about? And so creating this space gives them like that, that speech or that verbiage of, just being able to first talk about it. Because sometimes that's the biggest thing, first getting the words to even just say it. And, if they get comfortable talking about it, then they can get comfortable talking about it to friends at school and things along those lines. That answered your question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The other question was,
There's another question at the back.
oh, sorry.
Or that?
I finished? Okay. Besides that coping box, I remember in a meeting in Orlando, the Hopes Foundation, they talked about a memory box, which is to put memories in with that pulse and to create, and that memory box will remain forever, basically. Have you thought about incorporating that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I got like a worry box, memory box. I got all the boxes. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I have, yes, because it's so powerful too. But then again, it just ties in with how you educate it and how you really define that, hey, this is a toy versus, hey, this is going to help you, like Bubbles is going to help you do those deep breaths. But yeah, the boxes, absolutely, yes. Thank you again.
There's a question at the back.
Mine is, when I first heard about Hope Loves Company, I was thrilled, and I thought, oh, great, something for my patients, kids. Oh, sorry. Could you hear me through that?
Yeah, can you
Yeah,
repeat
okay.
that? You were excited,
Okay,
and I was
I
like,
said
yes,
when
but
I-
I could barely hear. Yes, okay,
I'm
sorry, say it
I
again.
get a little
Same excitement,
with my
though.
hands.
Yes.
When I first heard about Hope Loves Company, I was thrilled, and I tried to get my patients encouraged to get their kids involved. They just wanted no part of it. And I'm wondering if you have these kind of issues with yours. Just to get people to accept that their kids that's a family disease and the kids should be involved, it's very difficult to.
Oh, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah, because with the chapter, we first started doing like a youth support group virtually. And, and here and there'd be some kids on there, but it's also boiling it down to transportation, boiling it down to if the kids even know, because there's some parents who are still processing it themselves. And so as they're trying to process it, how can I educate or teach my little one or young small person about ALS? And so I guess my response is keep it at it, keep on saying it, keep on going, and keep, giving that reminder. Because one thing that I'm finding out is that there's individuals and families who are kind of just like, yeah, it's nice to know about that. But then when they do want that, they're like, they love it. And so, but just don't give up and still giving that information to them. Because then it's going to hit and it's going to stick one of those moments, and that's going to be the moment that's going to be fantastic. But the fact that there is something, that's the biggest thing. But I think just definitely reminding and encouraging and, you know, having the parents get comfortable and confident, being like, you know what, I feel pretty good. Because, I mean, they're still the guardian, like, they're still legal ownerships, and not ownerships, but, like, still over there, like, the child. But when they feel comfortable, then they feel comfortable enough to have their kid be more immersed into it, too.
Yes, so,
Okay. Oh.
hi, Kim again is here with the ALS Association USA. And I'm not sick, by the way, it's just going to rain outside, so I'm your weather forecaster for today. But I do have a question, actually. As we contemplate the value, and we are, as an ALS Association, supporters of Joe Martin's camp and Hope Loves Company, so they're fabulous, fabulous programs for
Yeah.
kids. But I'm wondering, how do you provide evaluations, shorter term or longer term, as we contemplate what adults might think of the activities of camp, or some of the different age groups in camps? How do you know what success looks like or the impact looks like on the great work that your team's doing?
Oh, because then, repeat that question again. I'm processing. I'm sorry. Yes, please. Sorry.
Oh, now you're testing my brain.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So I'm wondering how, on the shorter term or longer term, that you actually measure success of the impact of these programs. Because
okay.
oftentimes they're activity-based, but as we look at what the parents think, again, based on the previous question, and then how the kids feel is one thing, but how it actually impacts their lives is a different.
Well, I think, you know, it's just one of those factors of when it comes to like that short-term, long-term aspect, it's just trying to, I'm thinking how to say it. It gives them that confidence and gives them that understanding when things like this are present. You know, they are able to talk about it. They are